team news ahead of Sunday's game, please?
Well, from the unfortunate Wednesday night, we have no injuries and players back. For Sunday, we might have Koscielny, and I think that's it.
How's Hector Bellerin?
Arteta has a test tomorrow morning. Bellerin is ruled out already.
Of course, a tough result on Wednesday, you alluded to it just then, but you've won 5 in a row in the Premier League. How do you assess your squad's confidence levels ahead of this game?
I believe that, of course, it was a disappointing result on Wednesday night, but before that, we did extremely well in the Premier League. We want to continue from one competition to the other. I believe that at the moment in the Premier League we have a strong confidence and focus, and that's what we want to reproduce on Sunday against Tottenham. And as always, it's a derby. It's always a game where the commitment and the nervous force will be important.
What did you learn from the first North London derby of the season back in September?
That they are a side with strong defensively, and that they can play at a high pace, and that they play in a committed way.
And just very finally from me, how impressed have you been with Spurs' start to the league season?
With
Tottenham's start to the league season?
They've done well. I think they lost only one game. They have had a few draws, but overall they look stable.
Bad news regarding Bellerin, particularly given that Mathieu got a torrid time midweek.
Yes, but Mathieu likes a little bit competition. I think game after game, he has a basic fitness, and I think in every game now we should be better, you know. And Bellerin, unfortunately, will not be ready, and I think he could be back maybe after the break.
Is anyone out of your thoughts as a result of their performances in midweek? Are there any players you won't consider in this game?
No.
So when you have a result like that, and you bear in mind how well you're doing in the Premier League, is it easy to put one to bed and move on?
It's not easy, you know, because that's always a big disappointment. But I think it's you know, when you play against Bayern at Bayern, and in fact I watched the game again, not a lot has changed since my analysis after the game. I believe that we created quite a high number of chances for a game of that stature. So offensively I was quite surprised by the number of chances we created, but as well we had not our usual defensive performance, especially on the 2 first goals, where we gave them the goals basically, and that's where then it's difficult, because Bayern is maybe the best team at the moment in Europe. I think we could have repeated, could we have had a usual defensive performance, we could have repeated what we have done in the first game. But overall, let's face the reality. In 2 games against Bayern, we took 3 points. It's not where we have created our problems. It's before that.
So before we move completely away from the injury situation, I just wanted to mention Aaron Ramsey. And Chris Coleman seemed particularly cross this week.
Oh yeah? Why?
He was pointing out he thought that you were blaming him for Aaron's problems. He pointed out he started twice when he came back from.
I didn't blame anybody. I just said it would have made common sense not to use Bale nor Ramsey once they were qualified, and bring them on with 20 minutes to go to greet everybody and thank you, and would have helped the clubs. And it's just an opinion. I don't believe there's anything spectacular or with a desire to blame anybody.
Did you actually see his comments? I know you're busy. Did you get a chance to actually watch what he was saying? He seemed quite cross. Were you surprised?
I didn't see it, and so I cannot tell you too much more about that.
You wondered why you didn't call him. You said you called Roy Hodgson about Theo, but didn't call him about Aaron.
Look, I said as well in that press conference, I cannot call all the managers. I believe he has done just what he has done. I didn't blame him especially. I just think we analyze the reasons why our players get injured, and you always think that in the period like that, the player, if he can have one game less, it's not too bad.
You've seen a lot of North London derbies in your time. How do you see the threat, the current Tottenham team? I think statistically they're the youngest squad in the Premier League at the moment, certainly starting lineup in the Premier League at the moment. And the work rate is the highest as well. Are they a particular threat at the moment?
Yes, well, every year. Since I'm here, you know, it's a question I get every year. And they've always, in my memory, in the last 20 years, they had always very strong teams, Tottenham. And let's not forget that in some periods we were 8-9 points behind in April. And so they had always strong teams. And this year they are younger, yes. They work very hard. And so they will be a tough opponent, of course, again. They are every year.
If Petr Cech can keep a clean sheet, it'll equal the record of clean sheets in the Premier League, and he's done it in about 220 games less than David James. Just a word about that achievement.
I believe that on a strong distance, there's no coincidence. You know, what is repeated is not coincidence, it's just class. But as well, not only class, it's dedication and consistency of quality. And knowing him well now after a few months, I'm not surprised by this kind of achievement, because he's absolutely dedicated to his job. He analyzes absolutely everything, and he's gifted as well with a super talent. So he's certainly one of the greatest goalkeepers that you've ever seen here in this country.
And just finally from me, if you can get a result, and the results go your way this weekend, and Arsenal on top of the Premier League, you've been there before, how much of an advantage is that, or is it an advantage to be actually top and have people chasing you?
Look, you want to be up there, and we are at the moment. After the first game against West Ham, it's absolutely remarkable what my players have done, and now we want to take advantage and stay where we are. But how much is it an advantage or a disadvantage? I personally believe that it is an advantage, because it strengthens your belief and your desire to do well.
Arsene, how long do you see Petr Cech going on for? How long can he go on for?
That's very difficult to say, but he plays in a position where age is less a restriction than in any other job. I would say until 37, 38, I consider that the goalkeeper can be physically completely able to play at this level.
Some keepers go a lot longer though, don't they? Do you think Cech
Some go longer, but once you start to have a 4, to dive right and left and be quick and sustain the training and the intensity of the training sessions, now I think it's still difficult. 37, 38. Van der Sar, I think, was close to 40 and still was very well, was very good.
Has Harry Kane ever been on the Wenger radar?
How long?
Has Harry Kane ever been on the
Oh, yeah,
Arsene
yeah.
Wenger radar?
Look, he played here, I've heard, when he was a kid. So I think he's a very interesting and very strong striker. He has top qualities, and I think he will make a great career.
Yeah. Have you
If you ask me, once a player is at Spurs, you don't even consider him anymore to be under your radar, you know, because it's you have not historically many transfers from one club to the other.
Cristiano Ronaldo in a BBC interview today has said that he is the best player in the world. Do you concur?
He's with Messi the best player in the world in the recent years, and you know, you are. He has shown that he can score 50 goals in the last 6 or 7 years per season. So you have to say yes, he's with Messi. Messi has a little advantage maybe on assists, but overall the two have been fantastic players.
So would you go for Messi?
I would go for nobody because it's not my problem at the moment. I have a much bigger problem. Is to prepare my team for Sunday. It's a debate that is always very difficult because I'm first of all against that debate because I think we are first a team sport, and as a manager I feel always responsible to encourage the collective effort rather than single people out. And I think the modern world is too much about individuals, and we as managers we are more worried about the collective, you know. So I'm not too much a fan. I'm against Ballon d'Or. I'm against all these things because I just think it's. I've seen career being destroyed because the players are too much obsessed to get individual rewards.
Just one final point for me. Going out, losing to Bayern on Wednesday, if you do go out the Champions League, I was reading an article this week that suggested that might work in your favour for the rest of the season, in that you could be concentrating on the Premier League and that you'll go into the Europa League and some of your younger players might get more of an opportunity. Do you concur there?
Well, that's all good stories, but if you ask my deep gut feeling, I want to stay in the Champions League. And we'll give absolutely everything to stay in the Champions League. And I think we're still a strong chance, but it will be very tight now. But anyway, even if we had beaten Bayern, we would be in a position where we had to win at Olympiacos if we beat Zagreb at home, you know. So, unless Olympiacos makes a result at Bayern, it's not impossible as well. So let's just try to win our last 2 games.
Arsene.
Good. Tell him I don't blame him.
Arsene, title talk is beginning to gather momentum. What do you feel about when you hear people speaking about Arsenal for the title? Do you think there's too much pressure, or do you think they can only help the team?
No, it's not too much pressure. It's just too early. That's all. I would like that kind of pressure, but it's too early. So 11 games played, we have 25 points. It's too early. If there's 5 or 6 games to go, or 10 games to go, yes, it's too early. We want to be in the fight, of course, and we give absolutely everything to do it. And I believe we can, but it's too early.
When will you start to think it's more of a reality? A lot of people talk about the team at the top at Christmas. Would that be you?
Christmas, yes, you start to see better, stronger. I believe we have a chance, but it's now down to consistency and to turn up in every single game with top-level focus.
And just a quick word on the derby itself. Fans don't tend to enjoy it until the final whistle blows. How do you feel?
I enjoy it because I believe that what you want in football is play games who are important and where there is an excitement in the preparation and have a meaning for everybody. And you think football can give special emotions to people, and you want to be part of that.
Arsene, just going back to what you said about individual awards, which careers do you think have been damaged by that?
Well, I can tell you that maybe another day, but I feel sometimes, you know, people, it encourages selfishness and encourages people sometimes inside the game to go too much for their own sake when some partners are in a better position. And even the agents motivate sometimes the players to get individual rewards, you know, because they are more valuable on the market after. And that's why I'm against it. I think I'm not a big fan of it.
And presumably in contracts as well, there are clauses written in.
Yeah, it's contracts and sport is movement, you know. You can be number 1 in the world in March and number 250 in May. So it's not stable. For me, life is movement, and can be questioned. And to say this is the best one in the world, it's against that for me. It can be fluctuant very quickly.
Just in terms of your preparation this week, how much have you had to pick the players up after Wednesday night?
It is difficult, but it's part of my job, and I believe as well that we have shown in the past that we can respond to that.
Physically, I mean, were you tempted at all in the second half to maybe take off Alexis or Olivier and just give them a breather? Was that never really an option?
I was tempted.
Was it a risk then to leave them on, particularly Alexis? Cause he looked
Yes, but you know as well, when you go back to 4-1, you think maybe you go back to 4-2, and you never know, can create. Because I knew that against Bayern we could win the game in the last 15 minutes, and that's what we did in the first game. I knew it would have been possible in the second again, but unfortunately we had lost it before. But once you come back to 4-1, you sit there and you wonder, do I do it or not? And you want as well the players not to feel that you give up. You know, it's difficult as well.
Do you think fatigue might be a factor on Sunday?
No.
You always finish above Tottenham, you've done it every year. I mean, do you think you've got a psychological advantage over them because of that?
I don't know, I should ask them that. We focus on our own targets and try to do as well as we can.
Do you think Tottenham are slowly bridging the North London gap? They're looking at following year into a new stadium, going to be hosting NFL matches. Could that level the playing field slightly?
Yeah, of course. It was always level, you know, until I think on financial level it was always, had our power, because when we had a 37 or 38,000 seater level, and after we moved into the new stadium with less financial resources than then, because we had to pay our debts back. So that was always the case. Now, maybe since 2-3 years, we are in a stronger financial situation, but that will not last because we'll build a new stadium as well.
Is that going to be the biggest challenge for Arsenal over the next few years, because you've got Tottenham and West Ham as well moving?
You're right. Yes, you're right. That's of course the biggest challenge we face. It will be purely down to technical quality of work.
Does it ever surprise you, with as long as you've been here, that with Arsenal it always seems to be a catastrophe when you lose a game, and when you win someone, when you beat a game, suddenly you're the best?
Look, honestly, it's difficult to sometimes to live with it, but as well for me it just shows you how much the club means to people, and how high the level of expectation is from the outside world, and you want that. And I believe psychologically it's a bit more difficult, but as well more interesting.
What makes you feel that this season, this squad can deliver?
What makes me feel is that we are on a trend since the 1st of January 2015 that is consistent in our results.
Arsene,
Thanks, everyone.
Can I just know how concerned you are about the injury list?
I'm very concerned, honestly, because we are only in November, and to have so many players out, knowing that we go now in a Christmas period soon, I'm concerned because at the moment we have too many players out.
What chance do you give Koscielny?
I give him 80%,
Thanks all.
but we'll have a test tomorrow.
You take the microphones out.